Okay, quiet down, everybody. Quiet down. Okay, hello, everybody. Okay, welcome to Night School Horror. Hi, I am your professor for this evening. My name is Tommy James. Some people like to call me Mr. Oh So Smooth, and the others like to call me the Smooth Effect himself. And I'd like to welcome everybody that decided to show up today. We only have 2 students in this class for some reason, but welcome to Orientation for Night School Horror. We are the show, or the class as we like to now say, the class where we learn from our movies. So I'm going to go right now down the list. We're going to take attendance real quick. Let's see here. We have a Matthew Malave.
Oh, present.
And it says here a Mista Malave. Is that correct, sir?
Yes. So, my name is Matthew Malave, aka Mista Malave. I am a 3-time Who You Got champion, the longest reigning Who You Got champion. I love me some horror movies. I love me some horror video games, and I just like everything horror. And this is why it brings me to night school this evening. So I'm excited to be here, excited to talk, and I'm good. I'm ready to go.
Okay, thank you, Matthew Malave, Mr. Malave. Okay, we also have a, let's see how I'm going to say this here, pronounce this correctly. Sabrina Ace. Ace, we have an Ace here.
Hey, I'm here.
Hi,
Present.
Ace, how you doing? Present. Welcome, Sabrina. Welcome, Ace. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself here at Orientation?
Name's Sabrina Ace. People just call me Ace. I prefer to go by Ace, if that's cool with you guys.
Hi, Ace.
Hi.
Is that Miss Ace? Is that on your birth certificate?
We're not going to talk about that.
Okay, just checking.
You don't need my birth certificate.
Fine.
I was just checking because we always go off governmental names.
Yeah, you could ask my mother. She'll vouch for me.
We'll do that.
Just call her after class. Just not right now. She's busy right now. She's at work.
No problem. Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah. Horror is the name of the game, the obsession, and everything that I love. So I'm happy to be in this class.
Well, thank you for being in this class. Of course, like I mentioned before, we only currently have 2 students in the class. So in order to make this class grow, we want for all of our people, our friends, and all the people currently listening to enroll in Night School Horror. So right off the bat, guys, we're going to start. This is how this show or this class will be working. We will be discussing all things horror, from movies. I know Sabrina Ace actually is a huge Halloween Horror Nights nut. Also, I know you told me that you did go there before class, obviously.
I did.
I have a profile on all of you guys, so just so you know. We can definitely discuss that, during class and whatnot. And just so for all the other people listening as well, the professors or the teachers will be rotating. So currently right now for orientation, you are getting me. The next episode or class, you may be getting somebody else. You don't know. Night School Horror can get weird.
I love that we all get to teach the class, Professor. That's awesome.
That's how it is. We always get to, this is pretty much what we're doing. We're all going to teach the class, and we all get to pick what class we're going to be teaching. Topic.
The best thing to learn is from all of your peers and those around you. So that's fantastic.
That is the best way to do it. So right off the bat, again, this is orientation. This is the breakdown of what we're going to be doing. So I figured we would start with something pretty easy, pretty light. I mean, if you fail this one, you're starting on a 0, and I personally don't want to see anybody starting off with a 0. So I thought that you guys would be interested to doing this. We're going to start with some top 5s. We're going to start with top 5 movies. Horror, let me mention that, make it clear. I thought that would make it clear with the fucking name of the class and the show.
Oh, we get to curse in class?
We are allowed to curse.
Great.
We are adults.
All right, great.
You are allowed to curse in this class. Just don't tell the principal O'Shanahan.
Oh, okay. Fuck yeah.
There you go.
I'm fucking psyched.
Very good. Very good. Now, remember, this is night school. Listen, we all have jobs. We're here to learn, and we're here to give knowledge. How does that sound? Sounds good to everybody?
Sounds great.
Perfect. So we're going to be doing our top 5 favorite horror movies, and then afterwards, our top 5 favorite horror icons. What we're going to start with right off the bat is movies. Again, most people know I am a movie guy, so it's the perfect way to start. How we're going to do it is we're going to start with number 5. All 3 of us will go, give a little reasoning why, And then 4, 3, 2, 1. It's pretty simple, right? We've all been, elementary school, junior high school, high school. This is college, guys. Night school, we understand it, right?
Hell yeah.
Fucking psyched.
All right. Hey, you can curse, but relax on the cursing.
All right, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So it is established now that cursing is not extra credit.
No. There is no
Sad.
extra. We'll get into extra credit at another time. This is orientation, ladies and gentlemen.
Cursing, but you can lose points for cursing.
You can totally lose points. Those where zeros come into play. Now,
Damn it.
Again, this is orientation, okay? It's just the beginning. We haven't gotten to the nitty gritty. Let's start with our number 5. We're going to start with a Mista Malave. Mista Malave, what is your number 5 when it comes to top 5 favorite horror movies?
You know what, man? You would think it would be so easy to just rattle off my top 5, but there's so many great horror movies out there spanning from different types of horror movies, slashers, it's spiritual, just everything. So I right off the bat, I had kind of I had trouble just putting my 5 together, and especially the 5th one, because I kind of know what's my favorite horror movie of all time, but I don't know what's my 5th favorite horror movie of all time because there's so many. But I had to ultimately pick one. So I'm gonna go right off the bat with like a creature horror movie. I like maybe the Creatures in the Night that has some sensuality, that has some a lot of blood and gore. I'm going with The Lost Boys, baby, as my 5th pick, The Lost Boys. And for those of you who don't know about The Lost Boys, which I hope everyone here does, it's a vampire movie. It came out in 1987, believe it or not. And it stars what?
It did.
Yeah, it's crazy. It stars Kiefer Sutherland as the big, one of the big bad vampires, and it's just sleek, cool, stylish. It's just so good. The songs are amazing in it. I love all the transitioning period for Michael to becoming a vampire, and it has witty comedy, which is so great in a horror movie. And there's a shit ton of blood. The preparation for them facing the vampires at the end of the movie is kind of one of my favorite montages of all time. I got to be honest with you. And it's pretty great. And it is my favorite vampire movie of all time. And it definitely needs to be on the list as one of my favorite horror movies of all time. The Lost Boys, baby. Woo!
Excellent choice there, Mr. Malave. Very great. Actually, one of my favorite vampire movies as well. Great soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Also one of my favorite vampire movies.
Not kill.
I personally like the whole "Say Hello to the Night, Lost in the Shadow." That song is fire.
When they're just hanging on the railroad tracks and it's like, "Let go, Michael."
Michael, but that movie did make me hate the name Michael. Michael.
Oh yeah,
Michael.
Yeah, which is why I'm glad that they didn't call me Michael. So
you are close enough. You are Matthew.
Yes, well, way different.
Very close. Okay, Sabrina Ace, Ace in the Hole. What do you got for your number 5?
So I have to agree with Matt here on how difficult it is just to pick your top 5, because I was going through a long, long list of every single horror movie that I absolutely adored. So I also tried to get a little mix in there of just a little different genres, not genres, but little different feels of horror films. So for my number 5, I had to give it to The Black Phone.
Oh,
I know it's one of the newer movies, and it was just well done for being a newer movie to kind of give you that nostalgic feel of old time horror of, the real villain is just, it could be your neighbor versus, an entity itself or some sort of monster. The real monster could be the guy down the street that you never thought of, or, when you think that your neighborhood is safe and it's not in reality. It gives you that old time scare feel to it with some new age stuff of, just premonitions and kind of ghosts, but it was an overall great film. I loved Ethan Hawke in this movie. It was so different from everything else that I've been watching him in, and it just gave you that kind of excited kid feeling of being in a theater for the first time watching a horror film again. So I got to give it to The Black Phone.
That's a great pick.
It's a great movie, man. A great movie.
That is a great movie.
I love the whole, even the dialogues, the simple dialogues they had there. It was bone chilling in a way, because it's like you said, it brings horror into real life. and it's just like this shit can happen. It's so good.
I think
so
that's
good.
what
Good
makes the movie extra scary is the fact that it is something that is occurring till this day, and I know when I seen it, I really enjoyed it. And my wife, she told me, she goes, it wasn't really that scary. And I'm like, it's not supposed to be that paranormal kind of scary, slasher kind of scary. That's a scary, especially being parents, to realize that, hey, this can happen. And it's still happening. I tell Christian, my son, till this day, you should watch that fucking movie. And this is why you don't talk to strangers.
It's a thing that has happened for years and is still happening. And you're definitely right. Like Correct. Kids that go missing all the time, you're just like, nobody knows what happened to them. Anything could have happened to them. And it could be the creepy neighbor down the street.
Yeah. Yep. 1,000%. An excellent pick. A great number 5. Shocking because it is a newer film, but still, it's a great pick. So I'll get into my number 5. Now here, when it comes to movies, especially horror movies, it has to stick with me. It has to bother me, okay? Especially when it's horror, I got to feel something from it. Something that just, if I look a certain way, if it turned the lights off, it still affects me till this day. So my number 5, funny enough, is actually The Conjuring. I say it as number 5. And you'll see as I continue on number 5. And the reason for it is because I do love me some horror movies. And paranormal activity type of movies, paranormal movies, they're boring now. They're starting because they're so repetitive. Nobody does anything different. Then when I seen this movie, there's the one scene, we all know what scene I don't like. We know the scene that has played a factor that when I see wardrobes, when I see dressers, I ain't fucking with them, okay? I'm not messing with them no more because when that bitch is on top of it, I have never felt. Now here's the thing: I don't scream. I'm not one of those screamers. I jump. Everybody, a loud sound will make you jump. But I have never had blank stare face of going like, oh my God. That was the scariest thing I've ever seen. And I want to meet James Wan because I want to tell him, you should go fuck yourself for fucking doing that. I will tell a quick story. I had a neighbor and there was this whole thing. They were saying they thought there was some sort of entity, whatever, in their fucking room. And Jen goes in and she actually confirms. She goes, yeah, it's oddly cold in that room. And then he contacts her and he goes, hey, can you ask Tommy to come out? I need to move the wardrobe. And would he mind helping me break it down? It wasn't even a thought. No, fuck yourself. I'm good. I ain't messing with that shit. Because that is going to latch on to me. I'm going to come in here and I'm not dealing with that. The Conjuring brought back true horror. It slipped a little bit as time has gone on because they did the little side missions. But personally, that brought me back to, I got scared. I got legitimate, like, that was disgusting. Like, if I ever see Bathsheba, if I see you, I'm going to punch you in the face. When we go to Spooky, if I see a Bathsheba, I'm punch in the face. Don't even think about it, Sabrina. If you see one thing, she's going to come up and tap my shoulder. No. I'll punch her right in the face.
You punch her in the face for me, too.
I'm right there. I'm right there with you.
She's punch her right in the damn face. Like,
she's getting the 1-2.
It ain't happening. So that's my number 5.
Hands
The Conjuring.
for everyone.
It's a phenomenal horror movie. Some people we know say that it's not scary. I think they're just lying. I think they're trying to be big, tough boys and all this. Right. It's not. It is a very.
It's funny that
movie.
You mentioned that wardrobe scene specifically and that it had such an impact on you because I do remember it having an impact on me. Yeah. Again, like you, I don't scream, but I definitely like freeze up and stare. That scene made my chest get tight.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I'm saying
I'm sitting there staring at it, like clenching my teeth, like I'm about to die.
Yeah, and it was just because it came out of fucking nowhere.
Fantastic.
Like, you know what I mean?
Scare. It's quick. It came out of nowhere. Yeah.
It was so good, man. And I have a feeling The Conjuring's going to show up again. But, it's such a great movie. Okay. Such a great movie.
Perfect.
Perfect pick.
That was I can't believe I had to bring that back up in life. I haven't watched it that much. And then when I do, I know it's coming. Real quick. Last time it came on, I remember sitting there, the scene was coming, and I'm sitting there going, I'm not going to get scared. I'm going to watch it. And the fucking face came, and I was just like, no! Like, it got me. And I know it's coming. Like, you know it's coming. So, all right, we're going to move on to our number 4s. And just for all, the listeners out there, the reason that we're doing this is we want you guys to actually get to understand how we feel when it comes to horror. These are our favorites, you know. So if you can understand our favorites, you'll understand a little bit about our backstory. We're not going to get too much in backstory. That'll come a little later as the episodes continue on and as the classes go on. So let's get into our number 4. Mr. Malave, we'll start with you again. Let's go to number 4.
All right. So again, with my list, I try to get a little diverse, get a little bit of everything in there. So for my 4th pick, it goes with one of the most iconic theme songs of all time, and I'm just talking about the I'm talking about the original Halloween, baby.
Very nice.
You're trying to tell me like staple for like slasher movies. You talking about the beginning scene where the kid is just first person and he puts the mask on and you see just the cutouts of the holes and it's just through his eyes, and like it was just, I've never seen that shit before. And then it just shows how creepy it is. It's just, again, it comes from, just to piggyback off of you, Sabrina, it comes from your neighborhood. Like, you never know, like, what's going on in that house. You know what I mean? And then you get right off the bat a nice kill, and it's a kid. And then just all the creepy scenes with Michael Myers just popping up, you know? And, of course, one of the greatest screamers of all time, Jamie Lee Curtis, it's just incredible. You know, babysitter, it kind of set the precedent of just the whole babysitters, let's go and kill them. And you shouldn't be having sex or you die. Like, you know what I mean? All those tropes are just all wrapped up into this beautiful, beautiful movie that just kind of still holds up. I saw it last year, really. I put it on every year. And it's just like, it still holds up. The kills still hold up. The whole, like, one of my favorite scenes is when she walks into the bedroom and you see the damn tombstone and then the person's just dead on the bed. Fucking glorious. I just love everything Michael Myers. I was Michael Myers for Halloween a bunch of times when I was a kid because I saved up to get the mask, and my mom was like, well, it was expensive, so you better be Michael Myers for 3 years. So I was Michael Myers for 3 years. I had the mechanic jumpsuit, the jail jumpsuit, and then just regular old clothes. And I was just terrorizing my neighborhood, which was very fun. But no, Michael Myers, Halloween, it's on my number 4, and rightfully so. It's actually one of the most iconic slasher movies of all time. And to this day, they're making all these other remakes, requels, and all this other bullshit. Some of them are good, some of them just okay. We don't talk about Resurrection, but Halloween, yes, the original, fantastic. Number 4 for me.
Very nice. Original Halloween.
Solid.
Very good. Great choice. All right, Ace, what you got for your number 4?
So number 4 for me, and I know there's a ton of like possession movies out there, such as, you know, just paranormal activity types of movies. I had to give number 4 to The Possession. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar.
We did an episode on the Flick Book with that, yes.
Yeah. So The Possession made it to my list just because out of all the possession movies, it's always, you know, Catholic or Christians. This one was Jewish. It brought in a different type of religion to the scare aspect of it. And just the scenes were terrifying to me. I distinctly remember the scene of the little girl standing outside by the dumpster where she pulls her box out because she's so obsessed with it. And then all those bugs just fly into her face like that.
Oh my God.
It's one of those things that, you know, if a bug comes by you, you're like, you know, screw this, you know, I hate it. But to see all of them just inhabiting her body was like one of those scenes to me that just, it stuck with me. Like, just to see a child overcome by this, and it's like she's obsessed with this thing, and you know, every child has their obsessions, but this thing is like an unreasonable obsession for a child, so much that like she's becoming aggressive about it, and she pulls it out of the dumpster and then just allows it to embody her. It's like it doesn't sit well with me,
and it shouldn't. And
no,
it shouldn't.
Not at all.
Had to give it to The Possession. Her eating the bugs in her room,
Oh my God.
Everything about it. And then at the very end, you know, spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen it, I suggest you see it. It's really good. At the end, when you think finally it's all over, you know, I don't know, the rabbi is, you know, able to extract everything and contain it in the box again. And then he just dies. So the box is just out there open by the side of a highway where it can infect literally everybody passing by or anybody that just picks it up. Like it's the true the end question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a great cast actually. Jeffrey D. Morgan plays the father, and the rabbi is played by Mattis Yahoo.
Yeah,
and it's in Brooklyn.
Yep,
that was filmed in Brooklyn. That scene when he goes to, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Matt, I believe that was Brighton Beach.
It was definitely Brighton Beach.
That was Brighton Beach.
It was Brighton 3rd, actually, and that synagogue is still there. It's not. I don't know if it's active, but it's definitely still there.
They filmed it right there because he gets off the train, and we're sitting there watching. I remember going, "Is that fucking Brooklyn?" That is Brooklyn. Yeah,
that's Brighton Beach. I walked there as a kid. That's crazy.
A great movie. Shout out to Jade. Jade was on that episode with us. She chose that movie, and that was the first time I seen it, and it was good. I had a good time with it.
Yeah.
Definitely a good movie.
Definitely a good movie. All right, we're going to move on to my number 4 right now. So this one was a little tough for me, too, when it came to ranking my movies. So my number 4 is actually The Thing. Now, there's technically 3 of them. I'm talking about the one with... Oh, no. Why is his name slipping? His name slipped.
Is it the original?
No, not the original.
Not the black and white one.
Not the black and white one. Why am I forgetting 90s? His name? Why is the right? No, I think it was the 80s. What was the guy's name? Come on, he's Ego in why am I forgetting his name?
1982. Hold on.
What was his name? I'm forgetting a name here.
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell. Thank you. Fuck. Jesus, that's horrible. So Kurt Russell is in this movie. This movie is absolutely amazing. This movie really is about that whole point of not trusting. Everybody seems like they're fine, and then out of nowhere just snaps. Turns out they've been infected. And the dog scene is absolutely disturbing. It's gross as hell. The practical effects, and the key word there, practical effects, not CGI, practical effects, are done tremendous. This is a John Carpenter's movie we're talking about, okay? This movie is so well acted, and as Sabrina, you mentioned before with the whole the end question mark, this movie is the end question mark because we don't know if Keith David or Kurt Russell have been infected. They're both going to die. We know that's going to happen because they're going to freeze to death regardless, but the main part is, were they infected? Were both of them infected? Was one of them infected? We don't know. So the fact that it leaves you just like that, it's a phenomenal ending. The kill scenes are great, so I enjoyed this movie. Like, it is a top tier movie. And again, it's in my top 5. It's my number 4. I had so much fun with The Thing.
It's such a great movie. And you don't get a lot of movies like in the Arctic. Horror movies in the Arctic, you know what I mean? And so I feel like that aspect of like scenery and everything, setting is just looked over in horror. And one of those, like The Thing, is a perfect example on how great the elements can play a factor in a scary movie. So,
right.
Yeah, good pick.
Yeah.
I love that with The Thing, it's also kind of psychological because, again, you can't trust anyone around you. So you're kind of questioning even yourself of, can I trust this person? Can I not? I know I shouldn't, so I shouldn't, and I won't. So the
blood scene, the blood scene itself, when he has to burn the copper and he hits the blood and nothing happens and nothing happens and nothing happens and then boom, and it's a great jump scare. Because you're just like that, and then you're like, oh, and then that's when he's tied to the chair and his face starts to melt. Oh, it's disgusting. Really disturbing movie, but absolutely
beautifully
amazing.
Disgusting.
Beautifully disgusting. I like the way you put that. Beautifully disgusting. We're going to go on to number 3. Mr. Malave, what is your number 3?
All right, man. So again, keeping on to the theme of making it all different and like hitting all kind of specs, I'm going to a 1996 movie that kind of redefined the slasher genre. I know you all know it. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be on anybody's list. I'm talking about Wes Craven. I'm talking about Scream, baby. All right. I'm talking about Ghostface himself, the original Scream. There's no other movie that takes a big actor like Drew Barrymore and puts them in the beginning of the scene and then just torments her and then just kills her. And you're like, oh my God, like this, no one's safe, and the fact that like it played with your mind and they're just like, just the calls and like they knew exactly what they were. They took the horror tropes and they kind of just like, well, we know what we are. Let's just flip it on its axis and play to it. And just even the whodunit horror. Like after this, we had so many others, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legends, all those other B-rated, but this one started it. And this kind of like just revitalized the slasher genre. And to the point where there's like 6 of them now, which we won't get into that. Well, we will get into that further in our curriculum, I guess. But yeah, Scream 1, getting that ghost face going, and just, what's your favorite scary movie? Like, it just... As a horror fan, you're just like, oh my God, this is great, and you're answering the questions with her, like, and the one that stumps her with the whole, nope, it was, Mrs. Voorhees instead of Jason Voorhees, and you killed it. And you're like, you tricked me. And you're like, you need to know your horror movies, baby. This is why we're doing this. We're learning from our horror movies. We're basically doing it right now. Scream is iconic. I remember watching it as a kid when it came out, and it was just something I've never seen before, and it kind of scared the shit out of me. You know what I mean? Just because knowing that anyone could be the killer. I thought it was fantastic. Scream is my number 3 best horror movie.
Great pick.
It's like going back into what Tommy said about The Thing of you can't trust anybody. Scream was definitely one of those movies where you're like, are my friends really my friends, or are they trying to murder me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then it's just like, oh, it's the boyfriend. No, it's not the boyfriend. His shit checks out. It is the boyfriend. Like, it's so crazy.
Yes, a great mystery too. It's a horror mystery in a sense, and a classic, of course. A great pick, great number 3. Definitely a top 3 type of movie.
Yep.
Let's go on to Sabrina. Sabrina, what do you got for number 3?
So anyone that truly knows me knows that I have a big problem with found footage movies. So this one is a little interesting because it wasn't necessarily found footage, but more like a kind of just blogging from the kids' perspective. I had to pick The Visit.
Oh, okay.
So that one, only because there's a scene that sticks in my brain and will to this day. I hate crawling, and I hate people that don't seem like people.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the back of my head, there's just something so eerie about it. So The Visit, the grandmother is absolutely terrifying to me. Like, I know it kind of plays on mental illness and degenerative brain disorders like dementia and Alzheimer's. And, as much as that can be scary in real life, this takes it to a whole nother level where she's not only aggressive, she's just weird, like uncomfortable, weird. So to put 2 kids in that situation is terrifying to me. The fact that it's 2 complete strangers, the mom never even bothered to double check just because she was uncomfortable with her own parents. Mm-hmm. The fact that it's 2 complete strangers with these 2 children that's supposed to be taking care of them, and they're just absolutely weird and uncomfortable and then turn aggressive. It has that eerie feeling, again, of who do you actually know? Mm-hmm. What do these people have to do with your life? And, family isn't always necessarily family.
That's true.
Like it's a different type of scary to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a pretty good pick, actually. That's a Shyamalama Ding Dong movie, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah, he's good sometimes.
Sometimes.
I would say this is one of those actual moments where you're like, the twist is interesting, where you're like, oh, that's actually, finally, you figured something out that could work.
Definitely.
Great pick. Very, very good pick. I like that one. The Visit. Must see. I'm going to go with my number 3, and my number 3 is The Silence of the Lambs. Now, a lot of people are like, Tom, that's not a horror movie. It is. It's a horror thriller, a thriller horror. This movie, in my opinion, is the best horror thriller movie ever made. We are talking about Anthony Hopkins, Hannibal Lecter. We're talking about a man that was on screen for 18 minutes and won an Academy Award for it. This is the only thriller movie horror thriller to win an Academy Award for Best Picture. This movie was 1,000% amazing. I remember watching it when I was a kid. Didn't truly understand it because as a child, you don't grasp everything that you see. You're just kind of like, I don't really like that. And what about the whole Buffalo Bill character? Okay, we bring it back to the black phone. Well, where do you think ideas come from? This is where they come from. And man, he was a bad guy. Okay, funny guy. He was pretty funny at times.
There was lotion on its skin.
There's lotion on the skin, and give me princess back. You know, with the dog, it was absolutely hilarious. But nothing takes away from what Anthony Hopkins was able to do. We know he's a great actor, but Jesus fucking Christ, that man can steal a scene. The way that he's able to just keep it calm every moment. He's a cannibal. They show it. They let him actually at one point towards the end go a little crazy for a moment, but we don't get to see the true behind of the mindset of him towards, you know, when we get to Hannibal or when we go back to Red Dragon. But to me, this movie, it's almost perfect because the casting is perfect. Everybody's great in it. There's not one person lacking in this. They're like, you know, they're falling behind. Everybody's on fucking par. So to me, number 3 has to be The Silence of the Lambs.
It's a great pick, Tommy. I gotta be honest with you. It's really good. I am a big fan of like those thriller on edge horror movies, and like, yeah, this one's one of those outside the box ones where people are just like, well, not really, but you get a cannibal and someone who kidnaps people, you know, and puts them in a hole. You got some horror. You got some fucking horror, man.
That's some horror.
That's some real life horror there too.
Yeah, again, it focuses on what really happens in life sometimes. It's
so Tommy, I do have a question for you on that. When you said it was almost perfect, what would you add to it or take away that you would consider it to be perfect?
I want more Anthony Hopkins. Mm-hmm. I understand why, because this is all based on a book. So I understand why, and we get more Anthony Hopkins later. But I feel that afterwards, like when we get to Hannibal, we might have gotten too much Anthony Hopkins. And it's not knocking on him. It's just, you know, he shouldn't be a main focus. He's perfect as that side guy. He's perfect as the back person. Kind of like in the show Blacklist. Like, he's there, but he's only there to really help you at that point. Jodie Foster was great in it. Like, she was phenomenal in the movie. But I think if you would have gotten a little more Anthony Hopkins, a little more backstory, kind of what they did in the beginning of Red Dragon, in a sense, but it would have, you know, connected. We had to wait to get to Red Dragon to finally get to, you know, Clarice. And I feel their dynamic was so perfect on screen, I wanted more of it. But again, I can't complain too much because it's really good.
It's funny that you say that because I was actually thinking that too, that more Anthony Hopkins would have made it better just the backstory wise. So I just want to get your opinion on that.
That's where I'm going to go with that one. So, all right, we're going to our number 2.
I feel like the movie did that on purpose just so that way you want more of him. And that's part of the reason why he won, you know, and as the other sequels, you know, so.
Correct. I agree with that one. Knowing that what it's coming. Again, it is based on a book, so they're not going to just add on to stuff and just put him in everything. He's in the book. That's where he's at. That's where we're going. So I was perfectly fine with it just for what it is. Again, it's one of my favorite movies. Even in here, this is only horror. This still falls in top 5 favorite movies of all time. Yep. Let's move on to our number 2s. We're going to Mista Malave.
All right, we're almost home for the top 5, right? So my number 2 movie, it hits the spiritual aspect of everything, right? And this was tough, right? Because, you know, it's easy to go with, you know, one of the main, you know, like possession movies and go with The Exorcist, right? And it was close. I was going to go there, right? But I compared this movie to it and I realized that The Exorcist, if you go and look at it again and watch it again, it's a lot of fucking talking. There's just a lot of talking and not enough of the demons, right? Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, when the demons show up, it pays off. Like, I'm not saying it's not good, but then I compare it to this movie, and it was brought up before, and I'm talking about The Conjuring is my number 2 movie.
Yeah.
And yes, we all know that scene is probably one of the most horrific and scariest scenes I've ever seen in my life. But it was more so the kids in this movie that kind of brought it like full circle for me. Like the horror in the kids' eyes and the screaming, you believe that they were actually scared to death. You know what I mean? And it's tough with that, right? Because a lot of the kids, sometimes they overact, sometimes they underact. These kids like took it and they ran with it. And let me tell you that the hide and clap That hide and clap scenes when out of nowhere it just comes out and clap, clap. You're like, fuck you. You know, growing up in a household with a lot of cousins and everything else, we used to do hide and seek. We used to do all these other things, tag, all this manhunt bullshit. And there were times where you're left by yourself. Right. And there are times where you're in a big house or you're somewhere else that you don't know. And it's scary as shit. You hear something and it could very well be just a boiler, but you're scared to death. Imagine something pops out at you or you see something on top of the war unit. And like, it's just like, no, like, you know what I mean?
Stop talking about wall units.
You know, absolutely not. But I got to tell you, this movie like brought back all the feels. I remember watching it in the theater going, oh my God, this is better than The Exorcist. You know what I mean? And I get it. I get like the sequels haven't been holding up and all the side chapters. Part 2 kind of is an argument of being better than the first. I got to be honest with you. You know what I mean? And that was my other toughness. Like, do I put the first one or the second one on there? You know what I mean? But Jesus Christ, when I talk about The Conjuring, even if I watch it right now again, like you said, dude, all right, it's coming up. You know what's coming up. But you're like, should I still look? Like, you know what I mean? Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, The Conjuring, Ed and Lorraine Warren and everything that they brought to the horror genre with James Wan. I feel like it's great. So much of the Conjuring universe I have problems with, but when you give me a Conjuring movie, it kind of brings it back home. We can get into the third one some other time, but my number 2 movie is The Conjuring, and rightfully so. It was a juggle between one, but The Conjuring, Jesus Christ, man. Honestly, people, if you haven't seen that movie, you're living under a rock. And if you haven't seen this movie, you should turn this off and go watch it. And then come back because like that's how good this movie is. And if you're hearing a horror podcast show and you haven't seen it, then I'm questioning your horror fandom. I got to be honest.
I like that. They need to enroll with us so they can maybe learn more. They can learn more about The Conjuring.
Got to be educated.
You got to be educated. You got to learn from your movies. That's what we do. We learn from our movies. That's a great pick, Mista Malave. Excellent pick. I had that as my number 5. You put it as your number 2.
What about the lady hanging from the tree?
I don't want to talk. No,
I'm sorry.
No, that Bathsheba. No, stop it.
I will think about that scene until I die.
Man, with the feet, like he's right next to
Bathsheba. No, we're not talking about Bathsheba anymore. She's going to come. She's going to show up over here, and she's going to get popped in the mouth. And I'm not in the mood to be popping people in the mouth.
Too much energy. We're giving her too much energy.
We're giving her too much credit.
Saying
right
her
now.
name too much.
She scared me. I don't like her. We're gonna move on to number 2 for Ace. Ace, what do you got? Number 2.
My number 2. I'll get right into it. I picked Silent Hill.
Really?
The movie?
Yeah.
No, the game.
Yeah.
Can we mute her?
The movie, huh? Go ahead, please explain.
No, yeah, please explain.
I picked this one because when I was a kid, it scared the crap out of me. Just because I imagined myself in it. So, to preface, my friend was obsessed with the video games. So I watched the video games and I was like, yeah, okay, but you know, it's friend commentary back and forth. We're talking and making it funny, so I'm not really paying attention to how scary it could be. Flash forward to when the movie comes out and I'm still a kid. Still watching it, and I'm just like, oh, okay, you know, she's obsessed with this. I'm going to watch it for her. And it made me so uncomfortable just to think that if I'm immersed in that, what would I do? I'd be completely fucking helpless. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what to do. And it also sparked a love of horror for me in a different sense, to where the bobblehead nurses have been a fixation for me. I just loved everything about it. So it was more on a side to get me into other things than it was scary itself. It scared me to think about what I would do in that situation, but it really just opened up more horizons for me to get into horror. So I gave it to that as kind of a homage to my childhood, and not so much, you know, I'm scared of it now. But I loved Silent Hill as the movie just by itself without having anything to do with the video game. The video game I can talk about forever and get into that, but that's for another day. But the movie itself, Silent Hill, had a hold on my childhood.
I respect that. I mean, that's I like that the way you did that, the way that you took it, because let's be real, that movie wasn't really anything special. But
no, it's nothing to write home about.
But
like,
what
if
you
you
explain
didn't see it, it's fine. But when I was a kid, that was it for me.
I like that. I like the whole "what does it mean to you" kind of thing.
And honestly, just seeing those nurses in full makeup on live action was kind of worth it anyway. Worth the price of admission, right?
Listen, if you show me any cosplays of bobblehead nurses or Pyramid Head, you are my new best friend. I am taking a ton of pictures of you and with you, and I will try to ask you to strangle me just for the picture's sake.
That's fair. Keep that on in mind for Spooky Empire. There. Okay, let's move on. I'm gonna go to my number 2. My number 2. Now, I'm gonna say that this one that I chose is the first ever. Do not spoil this movie. Don't do it, okay? They made it clear. There was reasons for it. There was a point where that once the movie began, they locked the doors. You couldn't get into this movie. We go on our social media platforms and we say, please don't spoil it. I haven't seen it yet. Well, this is the movie that started the do not spoil, and that's Psycho. Psycho, to me, is, I will say, a perfect movie, in my opinion. We have Norman Bates. We have Mrs. Bates, which the twisty is Norman Bates. We have Jamie Lee Curtis's mother in this movie. This movie starts with a very well-known actress, which is Jamie Lee Curtis's mother. Well-known, huge at that time. One of the top-tier actresses. You're watching this movie, and she gets killed. And everybody's like, what? Because you never kill the main actor, the main actress. They never kill the top tier names. Well, they did in the middle of the freaking movie. And now everybody that's watching, it's like, wait, we're not done yet. We still got more to go because the sister gets involved, the boyfriend gets involved. And then when you get that final, I wouldn't say it's a jump scare, but I know a lot of people in the theaters when they first came out were scared shit when they turned the mother around and it turns out she's dead. Spoilers, she's dead. What's going on? It turns out it's Norman. Norman's putting on his freaking mother's dress, a wig, and he's stabbing people. This is one of the original slashers. This is an original slasher film. Stabby, stabby, stab. You go in to take a shower. If you hear that door open suddenly, what do you think? You think of you think of all that. The theme song that plays. Iconic. We're talking about the director himself, Alfred Hitchcock, the man of horror, the man of thrill, the man of fucking wow, it's amazing. This movie is so good. Everything about it is amazing. This movie made Anthony Perkins.
Yep.
He couldn't do anything else afterwards. He was unable to do anything because everybody would look and they would sit there and say, that's Norman Bates. And he is just a child. A grown man who's a child. If you've watched the Bates Motel television show, it's phenomenal. Because Freddie Highmore is perfect as him. Like, it's insane how much he nails it. And we go back to The Conjuring because Vera Farmiga, whatever her name, I always forget her last name and say it wrong, but she's the mother. Psycho, it's too good. Too good.
Oh, yeah. It's too good. Too good. Too good.
I love that you picked it.
Yeah. And we're talking about the original, not the Vince Vaughn.
We're not even gonna. Oh, we will.
Didn't even see that.
Don't worry about it. Get there.
Didn't even watch the Vince Vaughn.
Don't worry. You will.
Oh, we will.
Thanks.
We will watch it.
It's a time of your life. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. But yeah, Psycho.
It's
original.
A time.
It's a classic. Black and white. Great movie. Didn't need to be shot. Also, did not need to be shot in black and white. He did it on purpose. That's the first movie, if I'm not mistaken, that we see a toilet seat. If I'm not mistaken, that's the first time that we see a toilet seat, because that back then was, that's nasty.
Blasphemy. Oh,
blasphemy. Taboo. Don't ever do it.
That's malarkey.
The washroom. What are you doing?
Absolutely.
I do love that you mentioned that shower scene though, because to this day, my mother refuses to shower when she's home alone. She will not do it.
It's iconic.
She's asked me, I remember when I lived with my parents, if I was going out somewhere, she would say, hold on, I have to shower. It'll take 10 minutes before you leave. I was not allowed to leave the house until she was done showering. It made such an impact on her life. Like,
and a lot of spoofs on it too. A lot of spoofs on that stuff. If a lot of people now, when you see the stabby stab, they used to call the stab, they automatically go Norman Bates. Okay, Norman Bates. All right. I made a joke with I'm going to put it out there. My wife's sister and her nephew. they're very weird and close and stuff. And I always go, I see Norman Bates, Norma. That's what I'm getting. But if you know horror, if you're a horror person listening right now, you know what I'm talking about. It's fucking weird. So
it's fucking weird.
It's fucking weird. So let's go. Let's move on to our number one. Okay, we're going to be moving on to our number one. We're going to start with Mista Malave. What is your number one?
All right. So everyone who knows me and knows that I love horror knows that this particular character is my favorite. Believe it or not, it's a Who You Got champion as well. And I'm talking about Mr. Fred Krueger. I'm talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, baby. That is my number one favorite movie, a horror movie of all time. I mean, what is more scarier than someone that you go to sleep to and you can die? You know what I mean? And like, you're not safe awake or asleep. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like Freddy Krueger kind of just like messed everyone up for going to sleep. Like, I wasn't around when it first came out in the theaters and everything else like that. But the minute I saw it, I'm like, holy shit. Like, I don't want to go to sleep a little bit. You know what I mean? And like the makeup, like, and the commitment, like they try to remake Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street, and you just can't, man. Robert Englund is Freddy. Like, you know what I mean?
It's only one Freddy.
The makeup was insane. The characters in there were insane. Johnny Depp fucking dies in this movie.
He does.
And he just gets sucked into his waterbed and shoots out with all blood. Like, this is just insane. Wes Craven just goes to town with all your fears. And the scariest part, and you would think it's the guy with the knives for fingernails. No. It's the damn kid singing 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. And I gotta tell you, it's one of my favorite songs of all time too. I'm just so morbid on that on that note. And honestly, there's so many sequels on there, and some of them are good. Some of them really aren't. But just like all those horror movies, they just like everything, they try to do too much. But the original Freddy Krueger, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, it was just thing of beauty. You know what I mean? Again, even when people are trying to stay awake, and it plays on the whole, well, are you really awake? Like, if you're really tired, you know, and shit like that. Just the whole thing of just like your body shuts down in a certain way when you're trying to fight your sleep. And then if you go to sleep, you could die, and he's just in control. You know, there's something about that I feel is the most scariest thing in the world. And that's the reason why it's my number one. And on top of that, just he'll kill you with style. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he'll call you a bitch and then just just fucking take your stomach out. You know what I mean? He's just so clever. It's fun to watch. And it's scary as all shit. Nightmare on Elm Street, I watch it again and again, and it still holds up, your first one at least. But it is my number one favorite horror movie of all time, Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's a great one. It's
giving
the classic.
You all the applause for that.
That's and you said it best. There's no reason to, hop on that. Everything you said nails exactly what the movie represents, what the movie is, what it's done. Are there good ones? Yes. Are there bad ones? Yes. Did they try to remake it? Yes.
Yes.
I'm not knocking on.
Was it good? No.
I won't knock Jackie Haley. I actually think he would have been a great Freddy Krueger. It's not his fault. It's not his fault.
No,
I don't blame him for it not being good,
because he's a great actor. He's creepy. He can do it. Mm-hmm. It's not his fault.
No.
All right, let's go to Ace. What is your number one?
So, don't accuse me of copying anyone's homework, because I didn't know anybody's answers going into this.
Okay.
But my number one movie is also Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah,
100%. It was the first horror film I had ever watched in my entire life. That is the fun fact. My mother sat me down one summer and we watched Nightmare on Elm Street, and I fell in love to that day. It was everything I wanted. It was scary. It was kind of funny at certain points, in like the worst type of way. It had all the gore. It had the great acting. It had the paranoia of falling asleep. And that movie has sparked so many other movies and so many creepypastas, like the Russian sleep experiment. It pinpointed like sleep paralysis. everything scary that came from like, oh, sleeping or trying to stay awake and like every hallucination that comes with that. Like Freddy Krueger could show up in your nightmares and have you think that he's pulling out your insides and it's actually you doing it because he put the thought in your brain that there are roaches inside your intestines. Like,
oh yeah,
it was everything I wanted and more. And I will to this day say it is my number one scary movie, tried and true. I'll watch it over and over. As Matt said, it holds up. The first one still holds up to this day. It is still just as creepy, just as gory, just as horrifically beautiful.
Oh, that's great. Like, it's a great pick.
You can't deny that. You can't disagree with it. And Matt said it best. And now Sabrina, you jump on top of it. It's a perfect way to finally come to the full circle. You know, our top fives. So now it's my turn. My number one. Funny enough, when I think about it, what should be my number one? And now that I've heard what you guys have said, it's not Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm sorry. It's not. I'm not going to hop on the bandwagon right now because those people that know me know what my number one is.
I know.
You should know because my number one is the best creature feature of all time. The scariest movie that so many people have watched, and till this day, they can't go in a pool. They can't go in the ocean. Some people were afraid to take a fucking shower, and that movie is Jaws. Jaws is the best, number one favorite movie of all time, number one favorite horror movie of all time. Jaws is a perfect movie. It's not just a horror movie. It's a thriller. It's an action. It's a comedy. It's an adventure. There's a Broadway show now with Robert Shaw's son on it. The Shark is Broken. I would love to see it. It's actually currently in New York. Matt, if you ever get a chance, want to go watch some. It's the behind the scenes of what was going on when they were filming because the shark kept breaking down. So they needed time to just do shit. It's supposed to be great. It's supposed to be hilarious. This movie is the first ever summer blockbuster. This movie had so many issues with it. And Steven Spielberg, this movie made Steven Spielberg, okay? If the shark actually worked, I don't know if this movie would be as scary as it truly was. Because originally we were supposed to see the shark from the beginning when she gets eaten. We didn't because the shark was constantly broken. So you get the eye of the shark. It wasn't until the end, towards the end, where you see this massive monster. And you're like, whoa, that's a fucking monster. When he's doing the chum and that thing pops up, listen, there was a ride in Universal Studios. That thing popped up. If you remember, when he first pops up, and I don't mean dorsal fin, when he first legitimately pops up is when you're in that boat shack where it's dark. And if you're sitting on that right side, he's right in your face. Oh, I used to want to sit there. I used to be like, I got to sit there. He's going to pop up and he's going to scare me. And the thing about Jaws is I was never scared of Jaws. As a child, I fell in love with the movie. Everything about it, I enjoyed it so much. And I will continue on to enjoy it. But when I'm in the water, it does hit me. I start to think, is it possible? Could there be a shark out there? I live in a state where there are fucking sharks out there. Matt, when I was up in New York, Matt, there was a great white in Coney Island. I wanted to leave work. Everywhere. I was like, I need to go see that shark. But my dad wouldn't let me leave. I love sharks. I love great whites especially. But this movie is just, I would fight anybody. And you tell me a better movie, and I'll try to argue it. Even if you're correct, I'll still argue with you and say, but is it this? But is it that? Look, can you do this? Did this part scare you? How about, and keep in mind, I've also read the book. The movie is 1,000,000 times better than the book. The book is more dramatized. Instead of being like a Richard Dreyfuss, is more like a Chris Hemsworth. Like, he's supposed to be very attractive. We'll get into all that at another time. But again, my number one all-time favorite horror movie, and you can argue with me all the fuck you want, go fuck yourself. It is Jaws, the best creature feature ever.
Oh yeah, good pick, man. I knew it was that the whole entire time. Got to be honest with you.
If you know me, you know what it is.
Knew it was coming. Still appreciate it.
Also a really good pick, man. Like the menacing sounds, like the unknown, right? It's like you're scared of the unknown, and the fact that we didn't see the shark a lot, and then we finally saw it, and the payoff was really fucking good, top notch.
It makes people afraid of what they can't see. Like if you get in, like anyone that goes to the beach nowadays, if you can't see the bottom, like if the water's a little too dark, you're second guessing it just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And no other film. See, that's another thing when it comes with horror movies. You have these slashers, Freddy Krueger's, all that type of, Jason, Michael. New movies come out are paying homage to it. And some are actually almost as good as the original. There has not been one shark movie that can touch it, that can touch Jaws. The number 2, honestly, in my opinion, would be The Reef. No, that was a really good one. And number 3 is, funny enough, Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah.
But it doesn't touch. You cannot. Every year we get new shark movies. The Meg came out. I'm sorry, but it's fun. The first one, it was a really fun time, but you're not Jaws. And any shark movie will always be compared to Jaws. And everybody will always say, but you're not Jaws.
Right.
And Jaws is in the golden vault of shark movies.
Exactly. That's the gold. That's why it's always going to be number 1. That's why it will always be number 1 in my heart. And that's why it stays at number 1. I literally collect as much Jaws memorabilia as I can because if there was a Jaws convention, which there is in Boston, if it was here, I would be there every single year. That's fucking amazing.
Why isn't it here? This would be the best state for it.
They have Shark Con, but I want Jaws. I want only strictly Jaws. And of course, the other movies after Jaws, you were trash. Number 2 was fine. Number 3, he went to SeaWorld. It was garbage. Number 4 was The Revenge, where he has, a brain and he could, we'll get into that. All right. But, wait, no, don't listen to the bell. No. Okay, listen, this is orientation, guys. This isn't exactly a full-length class, so it's orientation. We go a little longer this time because we're almost done, and I want you guys just tailing out here. Listen, I don't care what you got to do. It's the weekend. I know you got nothing better to do. So let's do this, guys. All right, we're going to finish off pretty strong here. We did our top 5 favorite movies. We're going to do our top 5 favorite horror icons. We'll do it a little faster than the movies. Obviously, movies, you break it down a little bit more. We've probably spoken about most of these people. Tell it and then give your explanation. Again, don't take 25 minutes to do that. We're going to start. We'll switch it up a little bit. We're going to start with Ace in the Hole. Sabrina, what is your number 5 horror icon?
My number 5 horror icon has to be Carrie.
Ooh, okay. Very nice.
That's
so
bitch.
You will remember Carrie. Even if you didn't like the movie, I feel like everyone knows Carrie. If you said, oh, we're going to carry her, you know exactly what that means. You know exactly who we're talking about. Even if you haven't seen the movie, you still recognize Carrie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. So now we're not talking about Carrie Underwood. We're talking about Sissy Spacek.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sissy Spacek.
Eyes, man. Just her
right?
eyes.
Just scare me.
They're so light that it's almost like they're looking through you.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
That's good.
I was on your side.
Like if she makes solid eye contact with you, you're uncomfortable.
That's the epitome of like she didn't give a fuck. Everyone's dying.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Doesn't matter who was on her side or not. Something bad happens, fuck everyone.
Well, because in her mind, everybody was against her anyway. And that's just everything playing, everybody was laughing, but not everybody was laughing. That's, it's a great pick for a number 5. I like that as an icon. It's a perfect icon. And she is. Mr. Malave, what do you got for number 5?
All right, so mine's a little against the grain, a little out of the box, but hear me out. I'm picking as my number 5 best horror icon as death. All right? Yes, death. The thing that everyone goes through, death, right? But think about it. Final Destination. What was the scariest thing? Death.
Death.
Right?
Very good.
You're scared to die. In every scary movie, you're scared of death. Whoever brings it, sure. But death? You watch Final Destination and you try to cheat death. Oh, it's coming back to you in the bathroom and you're going to slip on some water and you're going to choke yourself. All right. You're going to save somebody from getting hit by a train and then you're going to get hit with a fucking like metal slice and it's going to take off your head. Everyone gets death. and everyone has it, and everyone is scared of it. So my number 5 horror icon is death.
That's a great one. I actually really like that. Now, a lot of people may look at that as that's a cop-out. It's not a cop-out, especially because you mentioned Final Destination. And as like on this show, in this class, we learn from our movies. And what did we learn in Final Destination? No matter what, we're all going to die one day.
You can't cheat death.
Don't drive behind log trucks.
You can't, and don't drive. We learned that in number 2, and
that's that in 2.
We learned that in 2. So a great one. I like that one a lot. So my number 5, I've already spoken on this person. I brought it up with the movies. It's Hannibal Lecter. Again, I'll bring it up very shortly. Again, barely in the movie, wins an Academy Award, and that's only because it's Anthony Hopkins, and Mads Mikkelsen was also fantastic as him as well in the television show. Hannibal Lecter, extremely intelligent. The fact is, even though he's a psychopath, he's a cannibal, that man only fucks with the rude and obnoxious. So if you're just a nice person, he doesn't go after you. There's no reason for him to go after you if you're not doing anything wrong to him. But if you're rude and you're obnoxious, he's going to have you eat your brain. Cheers to Ray Liotta for that one. Yeah. My number 5 is Hannibal Lecter. So
sweet.
I like it.
That's a good one.
One of my favorites. Let's go. Ace, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Jeepers Creepers.
The creeper. The creeper.
He's a scary guy.
So it's a weird time to mention that Jeepers Creepers, the first movie, was like awesome to me. Everything after that, I was like,
it was trash.
Fine, I guess. But just the mystery, because you never actually see Jeepers Creepers in the first movie until like it starts to get into everything, and then you see like the full effect of like what it is, or he is, or they is. Like it's just a thing. But the fact that he could be anywhere at any time and he will find you. Jeepers Creepers was definitely an icon for me.
Yeah, that's a really good one too. The Creeper, he's very scary. I remember seeing the first movie. I thought I was like, whoa, and he had wings. You were like, oh, he can fucking fly too?
Like,
okay.
He flies?
Like, fuck, it flies. It's like a roach with wings.
Fuck that fucking thing flies.
Yeah.
A great ending too.
Peeping.
Justin Long, man, always getting fucked up in horror movies.
Yep.
Still love the guy. Love the guy in anything he's in, especially horror. Yeah. Great in horror. Mr. Malave, what's your number 4?
All right, so this one is someone that Mr. A-Town is definitely scared of. I'm going with the doll that everyone loves to hate, and the one that has the most potty mouth. I'm going with Mr. Chucky himself. All right, you're talking about a horror icon. This guy loves to just jump on top of your back and just keep stabbing you a little bit, because he just wants a soul. He just wants your soul. But yeah, talk about Chucky. The first Child's Play was great, but then everything else, when he starts getting the stitches and gets more of his character, you're talking about some of the most iconic lines, some of the most iconic kills. It's hard to not have Chucky on this list when you're talking about horror icons. And yeah, man, Chucky, Mr. Child's Play.
Excellent, Mr. Charles Lee Ray. Have you watched the television show?
Yes, I have. I haven't seen the second season yet.
Me neither. It is on Peacock.
The first one was pretty good. I love it, and the fact that the actor replays the role and everything else too. It's great. I like
Brad Dourif. Brad Dourif's absolutely fantastic.
Yes. I couldn't come up with.
And I know that Sabrina, you went in the HHN house for Chucky as well.
Yes.
And we'll touch on that when I know you'll be doing some Halloween Horror Nights discussion. So very excited to hear about that. I'll move on to my number 4, which is going to go with a Mista Malave choice for top movies. I'm going to go with Michael. I'm going to go with Michael Myers.
Mr. Myers.
Just the mask, okay? The mask is so iconic. And everything about Mike. Mike's just great, I want to be like Mike sometimes. Sometimes I want to kill people like him. The only issue I always had is that towards the end, the last one, that one, Mike was whack. Mike was garbage, and they couldn't figure out what to do with him. He got beat up by pretty much a child in a sense.
Yeah.
But when Mr. Myers is himself, even the Rob Zombie one, he's a freaking monster. If I'm not mistaken, that's the guy that played Sabretooth from the X-Men, yes. Tyler Mane, and he was originally a wrestler. He is insane, okay? Grunts when he's stabbing you. Like, he is angry. And I don't think there are many stalkers in this world that can stalk like Mike. Okay, they say you want to be like Mike. Well, can you stalk like Mike? I don't think so. He's one of my favorites when it comes to just icons, when it comes to villains. And it's hard to kill the fucking guy. I don't understand that part, but it is very difficult to kill a man. He is a man. There is no supernaturalness. They tried to do magic and supernatural shit, but honestly, it doesn't work. He's a guy who's just really strong, psycho, and he likes to kill. Well, he likes to try to kill Jamie Lee Curtis. So I'm going with Mike Myers.
Good choice.
Love it.
Good choice.
Yep, that is my number 4. Mista Malave, number 3. No, I'm sorry.
All right.
No. We got to go to Ace in the hole. Number 3. I went back to the movie thing. No, we start with Sabrina.
Yes. Fair. Well, my number 3 is Michael Myers. So at that point, like we've said so much about him already.
I have him at number 3 as well.
Oh, well,
Beautiful.
all right. Well, yeah.
Unanimous vote.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So that's all your number 3. All right, I'm going to go to my number 3 in that case. That threw me off because I was hoping you guys would have had a little different. So, all right. So those are all your number 3s. My number 3 is Ghostface. My number 3 is going to be Ghostface, and it's
now. How do you do that, right? Because I know it's this mask and like the costume, but there's always a different Ghostface.
There's a different. I'm talking about iconic, like the icon of self, the mask itself of Ghostface.
Okay.
Because everybody that even dons the mask is still doing what originally it was about. It was about the phone call. It was about the stabbing. It was about the trivia that got all invested into it. There was always reasoning behind it. Some of it was stupid. Some of it actually made sense. And I just recently watched the newest one yesterday, but it was fine. I think they fucked up in that whole New York setting. They could have really played that New York setting well.
New York didn't even play a setting.
Which doesn't make sense.
Not much.
It does.
There was not much.
The train was probably the best use of the setting. But again, when you see Ghostface, again, brings you back to the whodunit. Who's under the mask? Who is that? I see somebody walking the street wearing a Ghostface. Who is that? Could it be somebody Could it be somebody I know? Maybe they're trying to kill me.
Show yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It brings you back to a whodunit. It brings you back to it's simple. It's a simple Halloween costume that is now, when you see that face, it's on one of our logos. When you see that face, you go, I don't know who's behind that mask, and that person could be trying to kill me. So my number 3, Ghostface.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
It's the most easily accessible costume, too.
It is. Right. It's easy if you want to just do it yourself. And also, if you go get the Scary Movie one with the tongue out when he says, that's really fun, too.
The smiling one.
I really like that one. All right. We're going to Sabrina Ace. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is Jason Voorhees.
Mr. Voorhees.
Another very easily accessible costume, but I just love Jason as a icon just because every person that you see embodying him, either in movies or just in real life, always has this mentality of, well, he's just really scary. He's kind of menacing.
Oh yeah,
it's like, yes, he actually is, but like you've never seen a slasher film that takes on so much revenge from childhood to a sentient adulthood.
Talk about childhood trauma.
Yeah,
for real.
Like that childhood trauma runs so deep it followed him until he was a bloated grown man.
Yeah.
And he's afraid of water.
He is very deathly afraid of water. That we found out in Freddy vs. Jason.
Yes.
Yeah.
He don't like water. He's not a big hot water H2O fan.
Yeah. No.
Maybe he's also afraid of Jaws.
Yeah,
he would be technically.
He would be.
I would like to see a Jason versus Jaws movie.
I feel like that would last 30 minutes.
I think less. Well, he wouldn't get
30 minutes of build up and then the last 4 minutes of Jaws and Jason.
Well, that was fun. Thanks, guys. Love this.
Credits.
Love this movie. Love this movie. Mr. Malave, what is your number 2?
All right. Well, good choice, Ace. Jason Voorhees is so great, and it was tough for me to leave him off of my list. But my number 2 is Mr. Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw. There's something crazy about someone wielding a chainsaw, but imagine someone wielding a chainsaw with someone else's face on top of their face. Like, it's just insane, man. Like, there's nothing more scarier than just seeing one of your buddies' faces on someone who's about to kill you. And just knowing like, oh shit, they dead. And if you're going to take my face, make sure you keep the right side because it's my best side. But no, it's he's just scary. He's menacing. And like once he gets you in Texas, that's why I don't fuck with Texas like that. Like I went to Texas once, and I didn't stray away from the town because you never know. You never know. But again, iconic person, iconic figure itself. You hear chainsaw, you run. It's just like horror Leatherface, like splat together, you know. Yeah, there's something scary about someone wearing somebody else's face, man. I'm sorry. That's why he's number 2, Leatherface.
That's a
glad
fair
you picked
one.
him because it was very difficult to leave him off of my list too.
Right. And the same thing. I'm glad you picked Jason because it was hard to leave him off my list.
It was difficult to leave both of them off of my list, but I do like that you went with Leatherface because he'll take his face off. Face off. No, iconic. Definitely an iconic character. And his dance. You know, I like his dance with his chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
He's dancing with his chainsaw when he's old. So that's a great one. I love that one. And I like that we're hitting on these main horror villains. You know, these are true icons. When you think icon, you think Freddy, you think Jason, and of course you think Leatherface. My number 2 is actually somebody, again, that I've already mentioned in mine, and that's Norman Bates. I think Norman Bates doesn't get as much love as he truly should when it comes to iconic horror villains, because again, he's the beginner of slasher. He's the one that gave us the idea from all these other people. Okay. The fact that he's just this nice young man, and he's nice. He's nothing wrong with him. He's a little creepy, but he's just a nice little boy in a man's body. And it turns out he's just completely just a psychopath. He completely snaps and he starts stabbing. He, for some reason, could do his mother's voice. We've never figured out how he can do that, but it's all in his head. You know, he wouldn't hurt a fly. And he stabbed the shit out of her. Like, insane. Again, Norman Bates.
He wouldn't hurt a fly, but people.
But maybe. It depends, though. It depends if you know, she was kind of rude. He had got a little sexual with her, kind of like weird feelings, you know, down under. But in the long run, I feel that when you see icons or horror villains that are about slashers, stabs a lot, they're getting that feel, they're getting that idea from Norman. They're getting that idea from Alfred Hitchcock. And without Norman Bates, I don't know if we would have, you know, Ghostface. I don't think we would. So, yeah, go Norman Bates. So now it's time to go with our number 1s. I have a weird feeling that we're all on the same page for this one. I think we all can agree, but I'm not going to jump. I'm not going to assume, and I'm not going to jump to conclusions. Let's start with Sabrina. What is your number 1?
I feel like this is very predictable given my number 1 movie choice, but I am saying Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger.
Unanimous decision.
Let's be real. He is icon of icons.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Robert Englund because you have single-handedly invaded everyone's nightmares everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Robert Englund.
That is I will say, the only correct answer.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
If it wasn't, if you definitely didn't say it, I would have been like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, like, come on, then.
So
I know that was easy. It was my number 1 movie.
It was the number 1 movie. And it's the number 1 guy. It's the man. It's Frederick. We love Frederick. I mean, you know, he's a fucking nutcase. Everything about Robert Englund, it'll always be Freddy Krueger.
Always.
And as
we'll see, bitch.
We met, and that's the other thing too. He's scary, but he's funny. You know, when it's bitch, when he says bitch. I remember as a kid when he said bitch, I was like, oh, he's funny, like Chucky. You know,
when he said bitch, I was giggling because it was the first time I had like admired like an adult on the screen and hear them just say bitch.
I think he's the only person that would kill you and then have a punchline for it. Like, I remember in Nightmare on Elm Street 5. Right, the Dream Child, and it was one of the characters that loved comic books, and then in his dream he was like, all these comic book hero things, and then he just slashed them in the middle, and all the color came out. He was like, told you comic books was bad for you, and it's just like, you see, another punchline. It's cheesy, but I love it.
Yeah, they really pushed that cheese when it came to the punchlines, and even in the remake, he threw out some punchlines. He had a couple of punchlines, and I would say maybe 2 of them landed.
Yeah, I feel like it's a staple. You have to have punchlines if you're doing a Freddy movie.
I agree.
You do.
I agree. So that means it is a unanimous decision. Freddy Krueger is the number 1 horror icon, the number one horror villain. So, well, that does it for our top fives. That means that technically, let me check my watch here. Oh, looks like class is about to end, guys. So before we get out of here, before this bell goes off, is anything like to say real quick, just so we can wrap this up?
I'm just excited to be enrolled in this night school class because, as I mentioned in the beginning, I love me some horrors, everything with horror. And I just needed a medium to talk about it.
Okay.
I am so excited to talk about everything horror and to learn about more things horror from you guys and from everyone else that, wants to offer their information for me, because I just want to absorb it all like a sponge. I want to live in it.
Yeah. I think that's pretty fair. We're definitely all going to learn from each other, which is one thing I've always said, even with second rounds, is what it is. We learn from each other. Not everybody knows everything, so there's so much you can learn. And that's literally the tagline of this show, is we learn from our movies, and we'll find out as time goes on how much we've truly learned. Before we go off, Sabrina Ace in the hole. There is something that's currently going on right now. You need us classmates here to spread the news about voting.
Yes. So I entered in the contest to be the new face of horror, and I need all of the votes. There are daily free votes if you have Facebook, so you don't have to donate. But the donation side of it is a wonderful cause. It's to assist in research and helping families for pediatric cancer patients. So if you do donate, it all goes to a great cause. I love that I could stand behind it, even if I'm not actively asking for donations. But so far, we are in the second round of it, and I am still in first place. So I'm hoping to take that lead and continue through the rest of the contest and finally get the dream life of the grand prize to be in a photo shoot with Mr. Kane Hodder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And be featured in Rue Morgue magazine.
That'd be pretty dope.
It would be amazing. So I do need the votes. You can find the link on my Instagram bios for Ace versus Horror. You could find it on Twitter at Ace versus Horror, or you could find it on my Facebook if we are Facebook friends.
And we'll be sure to at least get that link out there in the description of this episode of this class, so everybody can go and put those votes. And I know I'm voting. Miss Malave, you voting?
Oh, yes, I'm voting.
Very good. We got to make sure to keep those votes. We got to keep those votes going. We got to make sure she wins. She got to get that W.
We're in it to win it.
We're always in it to win.
You ain't first, you're last.
If you ain't first, you're last. And one thing before that bell rings, let you guys know, if you're going to be in the Orlando area on October 28th, you got to go and check out Spooky Empire, because me and Sabrina, the Ace in the Hole, are going to be hosting a panel. Yeah, we got it. We got that panel. We're going to be there. It's about 7 p.m.
So
They always stick us at nighttime because they know we're so bad. We come up with the bad words, and usually we drink on it. And usually we tend to do that a lot and sneak it out. So please go there. Go to our panel. I'm not going to tell you what the panel is about because it's pretty wide open. It's an open discussion. We do, in fact, have a few questions and a few topics we will be touching on. I'm not going to tell you what that is right now. You're going to have to follow. You're going to have to enroll, and that's the only way you're going to be able to see us. Spooky Empire will be there. You guys should be there too. All right, so it looks like class is going to be ending, guys. I think that bell's about to sign off right now, so we will see you next class, which is next week. I'm not going to tell you what the topic is because I don't fucking know what it is, and one of you will be the professor. We'll see you in our next class.